But you were building a small business at that point. But as happens in every great entrepreneur's life, there's the big idea moment. There's the moment at which the light bulb goes on, the eureka moment. And the eureka moment actually the idea wasn't yours. You were about to drop the tax business.
Right. At that time, tax season ended March 15th instead of April 15th. In fact, Tom was born on March 16th.
Mine usually ends in August, by the way, but go ahead.
Pardon? You're in August.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So we decided, in keeping books for our clients, we had to fill out all of their tax returns: payroll taxes, excise taxes, sales taxes, income taxes, and so on. So we decided
and you were kind of throwing that in as a bookkeeping service, really.
They were all included,
right.
Free, right. So we decided to quit preparing income taxes for a few other people that we did. We charged $5 to fill out a tax return. Now I'm talking about in the 1950s. And we charged $5, and we decided we were working 7 days a week and almost every night, and that we would quit doing tax returns. And one person, do you want to continue?
Yeah, tell us the story. John White?
John White, yeah. A fellow named John White, who was a display advertising salesman for the Kansas City Star.
It used to, a newspaper in Kansas City, it used to exist. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. And we prepared John's return for several years before then, and he came up to have his tax return done. We were up on the second floor of a building, and like everybody else, we told him, John, we've gone out of the tax business, so we can't do your tax return. But and he said, like they all said, who will do it? And we said, we don't know, but I'm sure you can find somebody. And John left, went back to the Star, and he was in the display advertising department. And so he came back with some display ads, pictures that had been drawn of people pulling out their hair, somebody behind an 8-ball, and so on. And said, before you get out of the business, why not try to make a separate business out of preparing tax returns?
And so you did the ad, people tearing out their hair, $5. $5.
And we kept that price at $5 for 12 years.
Oh, amazing.
Which I think helped us very much. And we got,
yeah.
I mean, our ads were one thing, but the
price helped.
The recommendations were much more powerful.
But so you put the ad in the newspaper, and you're out making calls on another business, and Dick called you.
Well, no, we gave up that other business.
No, but you were out of it when you put the ad in.
Yeah, when we
that day,
the next day,
you were out.
I was out, and I went to a seat cover business to pick up their checkbooks and so on. And when I walked in, they said, "You're supposed to call your brother." And he said, "We've got an office full of people. And come back as quickly as you can."
If you'll pardon the expression, there were lines around the block. Sorry, every president. So this is a huge success, and you.
Well, it worked well that year, except we were sued. We were sued by CPAs and lawyers because they could not advertise. Back in those days, doctors couldn't advertise, and lawyers couldn't, CPAs couldn't. We didn't feel like we were any in that group.
Right.
Because we were simply filling out tax returns.
And so a group of CPAs and lawyers got together, they sued you.
We thought we should move to some city where maybe they wouldn't sue us, where they'd leave us alone. And we talked about where should we go, Topeka, Wichita, Springfield, and so on. And I believe it was Dick said, "How about New York? That's bigger than all these cities put together." And that's what happened. So on October 1st, 1955, I moved to New York, and opened 7 offices. We opened 2 more in Kansas City, and that was the beginning of it.
And so the idea, the great idea, turns out to be successful. And at one point in your career, Henry, you said there comes a point when you have to gamble, and obviously you reach that point. You gamble on the tax business, but you also were lucky at that moment, because the IRS decided in 1954, right at this moment, you decided to go into the tax business full bore. They got out of it.
They used to prepare anybody's tax return free of charge. But of course, if they made a mistake, they wouldn't stand behind it, because they said, we didn't charge you anything, so.
Right, yeah.
And the IRS decided to get out, and they used Kansas City to test that.
Right.
And so people would go to the IRS office and then remember our ads and come to see us.
Right.
We had a lot of lucky breaks all the way through it.
And it was lucky, but obviously you have to be prepared to take advantage of the luck and to grasp the situation and work hard at it. I'm told that maybe there might have been an inspiration in your childhood, a movie you saw when you were 11 or 12. Do you remember that?
Yes, The Life of Louis Pasteur.
Right, Paul Muni.
I mean, this is probably before you were born.
I've seen the movie, Henry.
You've seen the movie?
Yeah, The Life of Pasteur. Paul Muni plays Louis Pasteur.
That's
yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
It was a great movie, and he did so much and gave so much. It did influence me, because I always wanted to do something, but to help out.
And you've given a lot back to the community as Louis Pasteur did. But he was a guy who kind of decided he had the right idea and went with it. And you and Dick, you created a large company. You started to expand Columbia and Topeka, but also you mentioned New York. You had offices in New York, but you wanted to expand more in New York, and you opened the first franchise. In one way, you were one of the first franchise businesses in the United States.
We were.
And the story about your going to New York to actually open the franchise business, I understand there was
kind
a
of
car
interesting. That first tax season in New York was our second tax season, and it was a tough one. And for example, we hired a lot of people to start work, and none of them showed up. But in New York, we just ran another ad, and more people came in. And then we had to instruct them.
But I understand you and Dick went around in a car to try to look for locations and talk to the franchisees, and it wasn't exactly what
we had Dick's old Buick convertible, and it was an old car, and the windows wouldn't go down. If you wanted to open a window, you just lifted it out and put it in the back seat. And we used it for delivering supplies, and while we were there, it also wouldn't go into reverse. And
had to be careful where you parked it, right?
I parked it by the hotel I was living at, and on a hill, and I was always careful so there wouldn't be anybody in front of me. But somehow or other, when I came there the next morning, there was somebody in front of me. Ooh. And I just had to wait till he drove away.
High finance and big corporate activity.
But at any rate, New York was a tough place to open a business, and it reminds me of the song, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. New York, New York.
Which was written by Kansas City, and as you know.
No, I didn't know that.
John Kander.
Oh yeah, John Kander.
Written by John Kander.
You're right,
I'm sure.
You're right.
Yeah.
But so after that season, we decided to sell New York.
Yeah.
Neither one of us wanted to move there, and we didn't think we could operate it without living there. So we put an ad in the paper, and we only got one answer. But we sold it to those fellas. They didn't have any money. They only had $10,000 between them. But that's how the franchising started. We said, we'll take your $10,000 if you pay us a royalty on the business you do.
So entirely out of necessity, you created this franchise in New York. Necessity and the desire not to have to lift the window out of the car anymore. Yeah.